Hello and welcome to the Movement Made Better podcast. We've been very excited to get this guy on. We finally have him, Dr. Ali Mattu, clinical psychologist and childhood friend of Neil. So, Dr. Ali, we'll turn it over to you, sir.
Hey, I'm happy to be on here. My background's a clinical psychologist. I've done a lot of work with anxiety and anxiety-related problems, helping people to make changes in their life that they've been struggling with for a long time. And I also do a bunch of different weird things. I got a YouTube channel called the Psych Show. A big passion of mine is to try to take everything I know and make it easier for other people to understand and make it fun. Mm-hmm. Like, mental health doesn't need to be this serious thing. I think it needs to be a fun thing that we celebrate, and it needs to be in the hands of everyone else, and it needs to be super easy to understand and apply to your life. And so I take every opportunity I can get to share what I know, which is why when you guys reached out to me, I'm like, hell yeah, let's have this conversation, because I love talking about this stuff. So that's what I do. I'm a mental health guy who tries to make mental health more fun and easy to understand.
And so Ali and I, we go back to 7th grade. So we went to middle school together, and then we went to high school together too. Yeah.
And then Neil, I think we ran into each other. It wasn't a Taco Bell. Was it Taco Bravo? It was some burrito place. We ran into each other after college. And I remember you saying hey, we should have a conversation about psychology meets health and fitness.
Oh, I think that was at, I think it was Yasu.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So not a burrito.
No.
Not a burrito.
Mediterranean food.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to Taco Bell. And then Taco Bravo. Taco Bravo was definitely, let's see, that was college for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably, maybe that's why I was thinking, Ali, we need to talk about fitness.
But I need to go do some taste testing at Taco Bell again.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember that. And I was like, yeah, we should totally have that conversation. That must have been 2006 or 7, way back.
Gosh, it's been a while. At least probably after that, because I graduated in 2006. So it was probably 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
But it's been quite a while, man.
It's been a while. We've been wanting to talk about this stuff for a long time. So here we are in 2021 making it happen.
Nice. Very nice. Well, because there's a huge tie-in between the benefits of exercise, movement, and mental health overall.
Oh, yeah, man. I always tell people that the quickest, most effective antidepressant and anti-anxiety prescription we have is getting active. I always say that. It does so many things for us. And to kind of understand why, you kind of have to go back and understand how our ancestors lived. We didn't live pandemic life. We also didn't live sitting down most of the day. Mm-hmm. We had long periods of scavenging, finding food. We didn't do a ton of hunting as much as we did scavenging, but we moved around a lot. We'd climb trees, we'd get some apples, and then we'd have long periods of rest. Yeah. But we also had activity during the day, and getting active is what we're wired for. And in so many ways, our modern lives have taken us away from all of that and from the way that we naturally used to live.
So do you think it matters what type of activity you're doing? Does it have to be light movement? Does it have to be, moderate, or do you need this strenuous type of exercise?
I mean, I think that's a part of the $1 million question here. And I think depending on the type of expert you're talking to, they'll give you different answers about that. What I always try to do is find something that the person actually enjoys. So for me, if I can help someone find activity that is joyful for them and feels good, they're more likely to stick with it. Mm. But part of the problem that I've run into, and it's probably something you guys know a lot more about than I do, is people don't necessarily know how to be active. Like what, like you say, like exercise, like where do I even start, Dennis? Where do I even start, Neil? Like a lot of folks I've worked with have said is like, well, how do I even know if it's working? How do I even know if I've got the right level of activity? Like some people don't know what it feels like to be experiencing like some good intensity exercise. And then, you know, my background is anxiety. So I've worked with a ton of people who get very scared when their heart is beating fast. And they might get afraid that, am I going to get a panic attack? Like, what is the sensation? Like, they get very scared when stuff inside is changing. So, I mean, it's a tough question to answer because getting active, folks so often don't know, how do I do that the right way? And they don't know what it's supposed to feel like. And sometimes those feelings might be scary. Or you might find yourself like I think most like traditional gyms are really horrible psychological experiences. Yeah. Like you walk in, you don't know what to do. And it can be very intimidating if you're not feeling so good about your body and you're not feeling so good about your health to also be surrounded by these people that seem to have it all together. Of course, they probably don't. But like that's a feeling a lot of people that I've worked with have had when they walk into a gym. It's so overwhelming. You need actually a guided experience through it because you don't even know where to start.
There is such a huge intimidation factor. I think probably, would you say the majority of people are probably intimidated by a gym?
Yeah, I would say so.
That's been my experience. And that's been the experience of like people I work with. And I think like, I mean, this is again an area you both know much more than I do, but I think traditional gyms as they're set up, like when you close your eyes and you think of a gym, you got like the cardio on one side, you got the weights on another, and maybe a class in there. I think a lot of them are set up to make you feel like you're being healthy, but it's a really overwhelming experience.
It's kind of like cliquish, just like high school and junior high was. Right? I mean, you got the people that are always in the cardio section. They never do anything other than the bike or the treadmill. Yeah. And you got the jocks or meatheads that are always lifting the weights. And then you got the cool kids type of thing, whatever, doing the step classes and look at me doing the Zumba and stuff, right? Because it's very cliquish.
Totally. I mean, it's funny you say that because like, you know, Neil and I go way back to seventh grade. And I think, Neil, like we had like more conversations about real life, like out of high school than we ever did like in high school. Cause you got these cliques and you don't really know the people outside of your cliques. You think you do, but you don't. Like, and I think that's the same thing with like, the gym is you might think, you know, like, what the people are doing in weights, but you really like don't, you know? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think sometimes, you know, when people go into the traditional gyms, right, you go in with your headphones. It seems like a social place, but unless you're going there with a friend or something, it isn't really like that, you know? Whereas, for example, if you go to a rock climbing gym, like the one that Dennis and I go to, Planet Granite, there's this community feel. And so that's just a whole different thing. Like you're going there to be active, but hanging out with your friends. And it's just got a different vibe.
Yeah, at a rock climbing gym, people want to help you out more. Right? Yeah. Like they're quick to go, hey, do this, or maybe I suggest this. Where at a gym, it seems to be much more standoffish.
Yeah. It's actually, it's pretty lonely to walk in because you're right. You put in your headphones and you go on the treadmill, I guess. Like no one's going to help you out and be like, hey man, like, you know, here's how this works. Like that doesn't happen. The best experience I had at a gym was more like, I love biking. It's my favorite thing. And one of the reasons why I think I like biking so much is it just reminds me of my childhood. And like, I love the feeling of going fast. And I love the feeling of being independent. Like my bike was the first thing that let me kind of do whatever I wanted to. So the bike to me is associated with so much cool stuff. And I like going to spinning classes for that reason. It gives me some of those same kind of feelings. But Dennis, you're kind of right. Like it's a little bit more of a community. And it gets like it can get a little cliquish, like especially if you're doing like some of the more trendy spinning kind of stuff. This gets back to one of the very first studies in social psychology. It was about exercise, actually. Oh. And it was a very simple study, but they were looking to see how far do people run. And they're looking to see, does it make a difference if you're running solo or with a group? And what the study found is like people would run farther if they're running with a group. Like, you know, you might say like, well, yeah, duh, that makes total sense. But this was like the first study in social psychology. And it's easier to be more active if you feel like you've got the support of other people and they're kind of helping you along. I think we've all had that experience of like, we'll do more when we're with other people. And when we're by ourselves, it's easier to quit. It's easier to lose focus. It's easier to feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like all those doubts in your head can kind of get in the way from making any of the kind of changes you want to make.
We've been seeing more articles from the psychology side touting the benefits of just getting outside and going for a walk.
Yeah.
As a great starting point.
Yeah. That's a great lesson just for 2020 and 2021. There's a couple of things that happen just from taking a walk. So one thing we know is this idea of biophilia. It kind of means like love of the natural world. Like for some reason, we just do better when we're outside. So two people, one person has had a surgery. Both people have had surgeries, but one person is recovering in a hospital, which with a window to the outside world. One person is not. The person with the window recovers faster. Like same two people, one person has a painting of nature and the other person has a painting of a city. The person with the painting of nature recovers faster. Like for whatever reason, we do better when we're connected to the outdoors. And I think this gets back to the history of our species. Like we largely lived outside. We largely lived more connected to nature. So that's one thing that a walk will do for you. The other thing it does is it makes it easier for you to get out of your head. I always tell people, you can't outthink your way through worries. Like you can't think your way out of all the stuff that's in your head. You have to get outside. You have to talk to other people. You have to get all that stuff that's going on in here. You have to kind of get it outside of you, and you need to get connected to all the stuff that's outside of you too. That's kind of what we get when we go on a walk. What physical exercise can do, and what getting your body active can do, is related to that. Like I always I told you before about like, you know, the best antidepressant, best anti-anxiety is physical activity. But the other thing I tell people is, and this comes from a treatment called dialectical behavior therapy, when we're dealing with really intense emotions, when you're dealing with something that like maybe like strong anger or really intense anxiety or like strong jealousy, like really powerful emotions that don't feel too good to you. The best way to change that is to change your body chemistry. Get your body cold, get your body hot, get your body moving, get your heart pumping, get your breath moving faster. Like whatever you can do to get your body chemistry changed in a quick way, it's going to get you out of those intense emotions. For a lot of us, the easiest way to do that is some physical activity. Like whether it's 10 jumping jacks, hopping on your bike, going for a run, maybe a cold shower, maybe a hot shower. Like changing your body chemistry is the fastest way to change your emotions. So yeah, that's a very long answer to your short question about going for a walk. But that movement and connection with the outdoors, it's tremendously healthy.
Yeah, I know Laylee and I, you know, we would always take these trips to, you know, Yosemite or we'd always try to find somewhere to go to hike and rock climb. And during those weekends or weeks we would do it, your head just kind of clears out.
Totally. The sounds, the sights, you know, it's also just like such a powerful sensory experience. Everything's activated. Smell, sight, taste, touch, all of it. You feel all of those things. You know, the more you're going on a hike, the more dry your mouth becomes. You notice that. You notice the sound of birds. You notice the changing smells. That's what we're built for. We're built for all of those things. We're not built for this. Like, you know, I'm in this stupid office that I'm in all day long, and like I got this jar of lavender. I don't know if you guys see it in the back there.
Yep.
But like when I'm so done and feeling so dull in all of here, I open up that jar just so it gives me a little bit of life and a little bit of relief. But that's the kind of stuff we're wired for. You know, what's funny about that, Neil, my wife, who we also like, Lily and you and I and my wife, Nuann, we all went to the same high school together. So like all of us go back a long way. But my wife and I used to live in New York before we moved back to California about a year and a half ago. We used to love going on long walks and just getting lost in those walks. And we weren't really nature people. Like we weren't like, let's go on a big hike. We were like, let's go on a walk kind of people. But all of that changed when we moved back to California and the pandemic hit. Because the only safe places for us were like outdoor places. So we could go there with our daughter. We could go on these like hikes and kind of get lost in nature. And it felt very safe with the pandemic. Like you can socially distance easily. There's not a lot of people outside. It's open air, open ventilation. And it's made me fall in love with nature, man. It's like the thing I look forward to the most in the week is like, when am I going to get out of my home? Like what trail am I going to hit? Like, how can I just get centered, get out of all of this and get back and plugged in with the world?
Well, how do you handle people that are like, I hate nature, it's just a waste of time? Is that more something that we actually physically just need to get that person out there first to remove the mental inhibitions or roadblocks?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dennis. And what I think about there is, so if I was working with that person, I would say, yeah. So first off, I'm gonna validate that, right? Because like that, there's good reasons why that person probably feels that way, right? And their emotion is real, regardless of whatever reason they might be feeling it. They're feeling it. That's a real emotion. So like, yeah, okay, I get it. This is not something that you usually enjoy. Like, what are you worried might happen? When you think about the outdoors, what comes to mind? So I want to get a better sense of like, all right, what's driving that? Is it they don't know where to go? Is it they get a lot of bug bites and they like mosquitoes love them because some people have this body chemistry that appeals to mosquitoes more than other people, right? So is it the bugs? Is it not knowing where to go? Is it that like your stamina level isn't good for like a big incline right now? Like, is it your knowledge, your comfort? And then also like, what kind of outdoor experiences do you like and you don't like? Like not everyone is I want to go hit a trail, get lost in nature thing, because that might be scary. Like, or maybe that person has experienced trauma and like they feel very unsafe being in places where they might not have cell phone reception or stuff like that. Like there are so many reasons that can keep people from doing outdoor activities. So I think if you kind of drill down and you pick up like, all right, what are some of the mental blocks there? Then you can be like, okay, well, so you might not be, let's go in the mountains kind of person, but maybe you like animals. So maybe let's go someplace where there's some ducks and swans. Like we live here in the Bay Area. There's so many cool trails along the bay where you can see like incredible birds that it's just like if you're a bird watcher, like there's some amazing places you can go to and it's not that far away. Like the East Bay has like some really cool trails there, you know? So I think it's about figuring out what are the blocks and then figuring out what someone likes. Like one of my favorite questions to ask someone when the first time I'm meeting them is like, what do you do for fun? Like when I do a lot of work with teenagers and young adults. So oftentimes their parents are forcing them in to work with me. They don't necessarily want to work with me. So I'll ask them stuff like, so what do you do when your parents aren't around? Like, what do you like to do for fun? What do you always get in trouble for doing too much of? Is it video games? Is it basketball? Is it like, what kind of stuff do you like to read? Like, I want to really know what this person loves. And then I want to figure out, all right, can I map that on to the changes they want to make? Like if it's about being more healthy, can I map on their love of zombies and get them doing zombie run, where they're like playing this game and like simulating a run from it? Or if they're really into different movies, can I get them like walking in some place that was like featured in a movie that they really like, or something that inspired that, or like just get them listening to podcasts when they're out getting active. I think there's so much benefit to just weaving in the things that people love to the changes they kind of want to make. And that gets back to one of the first things I said is like, my goal is always, I got to map on like enjoyment to all of these things. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle,
So it's our job as coaches to, number one, ask questions, but number two, actually listen to the answers as opposed to just pretending like we're just listening to it. Because I think a lot of trainers, I see it where they're hearing information, but they're not absorbing that information.
Totally. I think a lot of coaches and trainers, you're meeting people at really interesting points in their life. Like they're frustrated with the way things have been going. They want more help. They know they need more help, and they know they can't necessarily do it on their own, or they want to get to the next level and they know that they can't do that on their own. And so they're at this critical point in their life. And I think if you understand why they're at that point, like why are they frustrated? What change do they want to make? That's going to get you the majority of the way there. And if you can just understand a little bit more about what drives this person, what are the things they love, what are the things they hate, in addition to like understanding their health, like where are they, like what do they need to do to get to that next level, I think that's just gold. Like you got it. If you really understand why this person is coming to you, what drives them, what do they love, what do they dislike, that's it. That's all you need.
I think that's a really good point. And I think successful coaches are really effective communicators and, really getting into the why for, all their clients, their athletes. Because once you build that trust is when you can get someone to do something.
Yeah, there's a really cool technique that I'm not sure how much has become part of the trainer community, but it's a big part of everything I do, and it's this idea of motivational interviewing. So this is actually a technique that was developed to help people stop smoking. And it was something that was woven into a lot of what physicians do when they meet with people. And the whole idea was telling people to stop smoking is like not that helpful. Because like
it's so true. Okay.
If getting people to change was that easy, none of us would have a job.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like people come to us for a reason because this stuff is hard. Whether you're talking about your mental health or your physical health, and like spoilers, we're talking about the same thing. Mental health is physical health. But like it's you need a lot more than telling people to not do that, right? The Dr. Phil approach, like, you just tried just not doing that. That doesn't work, right? So you need something else. So motivational interviewing is this idea of making it easy for people to talk about change and what's gotten in the way of change. So you ask a lot of questions like, let's say it's smoking, for example. Like, what does smoking do for you? What do you like about it? Do you remember why you started? And do you remember what's kept it going? And the trick of that is not to ask like, why do you smoke?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. But it's just like, hey, what do you like about it? Like, we keep doing things because they do something for us. Mm-hmm. And if you ask a smoker that question, they'll probably say something like, I just kind of like fell into it. Like maybe like a cousin was doing it or my friend was doing it, but I just like the feeling, and I like doing it with other people. I like having a smoke break. I like some of the focus I get. I like that it makes me less hungry, And so then you get, okay, there's a social part. You like that connection. Okay. It like feels good. You also like that in some ways you kind of feel like it's better for your health because you're eating less, so like now you're understanding what's keeping this thing moving forward, right? And then you also ask people like, what do you like less about it? Not like, what are the problems, but like, what do you like less about smoking? And then folks might say, I hate how much money I'm spending. I hate that I walk upstairs and it's hard for me to breathe. I had an uncle who died of lung cancer. I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want that to happen to me. So now you go, okay, the financial part of it, it's getting in the way. This person doesn't like how they feel like old, like way older than their years when they're going upstairs. So now you got the reasons why they're doing it. You got the reasons for why they want to change. And then you can ask someone something like, all right, 0 to 10, how much are you ready to make a change about this? And someone might say like, hey, I'm a 5 right now. And you can say stuff like, all right, I hear it. You're really struggling. You want to make changes. And at the same time, like, change is hard. Where were you a month ago? 0 to 10. Oh, I was like a 2. Whoa. So you jumped from a 2 to a 5. Like, what happened there? Or they might say, like, I was a 10 a month ago. I really wanted to make change, but now I'm a 5. Oh, whoa, that big change there. What happened? So motivational interviewing it's all about getting people ready to make changes by making it easy to talk about change. Make it easy to understand what's keeping this thing going, making it easy to understand what's getting in the way of making changes, and then helping the person to be open about that. Like, if you're working with someone and they're struggling to do all the things that you're assigning them, talk to them about it in the same way. Like, what do you like about the situation? What do you like less about the situation? Like, let's like understand it. Let's put all of our exercises aside and let's just understand what's going on right now. It doesn't take that much time of doing that. But what you communicate is like, I get it. It's only human that you're in this situation you're at. And now that we know what's keeping it going, what's getting in the way, let's make a plan to address those things. Dennis, it's about like actually like asking those questions and actually listening. A little bit of listening goes a long way to making a person ready to take the next step.
I think too many of us just go, why can't you just do this? And so we forget that there are a lot of hurdles. As a former smoker, for me, I just mentally said, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, for me, cold turkey was not a problem.
Yeah.
Same when I wanted to stop gambling. Like, I was just all like, this is kind of stupid. And so I just quit. I did. One day I was just all like, okay, this has been a waste of my time. So I literally just was like, I'm done. But that's very unique. Most people have to have that differential to figure out, okay, why do I want to stop this, or how do I go about doing that? But I think too many of us, especially in the physical world, when we talk about helping people get stronger and moving better, I think a lot of us just have that inability to go, well, why can't you just do this?
Right. Well, one of the things that you just did there in your own journey is you made a big identity shift. So there's really good research that shows if you change your identity, you're much more likely to change your behavior. So if one day you wake up and you're like, you know what? I'm not a smoker anymore. I am now someone who does not smoke. Like, you're way more likely to go through with that than someone who says, I'm trying to quit. It's a big shift because, well, now it's a part of your identity. And then what we do when we make identity shifts is we start to connect with people who've got the same identity. Like, if I'm a therapist, there's a certain thing that means, and I connect with other therapists to do that. And we start to develop the same values and we support each other. It's the same thing with health changes. If you're someone who rides their bike, you get connected with that community. You start to wear that same gear. You start to run into each other. You nod to each other when you see each other. You support each other. It is way easier to make these changes if it's identity driven. It's a lot harder if you're like, oh, well, I'm just kind of trying to do this. And this gets back to the gym thing. Like, if you get connected to, like, you go to a rock climbing gym, like, that's a big part of people's identities. Like, it's a big part of your routine. There's language you use. There's a culture associated with it. Sounds like with the gym you guys go to, which also sounds like a lot of rock climbing gyms are like this. Like, it is kind of a welcoming place. Mm-hmm. Like, all of that is identity-driven change. Way easier to make changes when it's about your identity.
Changing the environment also has to take place, right? Because that kind of like that, I guess, for better lack of term, we used to call it the trailer park complex. How generations get stuck in the same trailer park.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You don't change your physical surroundings.
Yeah. Well, you're talking my language, man.
Right.
My background as a therapist is I'm very much a behavioralist. And what that means is changing people's behavior is the easiest way to often do that is changing the environment. Mm-hmm. Food has always been a struggle of mine. And I kind of grew up in a home where if I was upset, my mom just gave me snacks, So I learned I can, if I'm feeling bad, just eat some stuff, man. Have some Snickers, have some chocolate. It's going to chill you out. You're going to feel good. My weapon of choice was Sour Patch Kids and any gummy related thing. Man, puts me in a good place. I'm in a great place. And I could easily down bags of that stuff. So my journey has been trying to find a healthy way to do that. And the healthiest way I have found to deal with that kind of stuff is I control what comes in my home, and then I control where it goes. I'm not buying like Costco-sized giant vats of gummies. If I do that, it's going to be gone. I'm going to eat them all. Yeah. I usually don't even bring that stuff into my home. Like, look, you want to stop drinking? Easiest to just not have the drinks in your home, right? I'm a big fan of make it easy to resist the things you want to resist and make it easy to do the things that you want. And a lot of times that means changing your environment, changing how it's set up. Like right now, I'm talking to you guys standing because I spent so much of my day sitting that I learned it's like giving me a lot of back problems. And when I kind of changed my setup, so I do I try to only do meetings standing. It's been so good for my posture, so good for my back. I'm a big believer that we can all do little things in our environment to make healthier choices. And do I still eat Sour Patch Kids? Yeah, man. When I go to movies, which hasn't happened in a year and a half, boom, I'm getting that box and I feel guilt-free about it. Because I'm like, this is the place where I do Sour Patch Kids, But I don't bring them into my home because I don't trust myself. We can all do very little things in our home, in our environment. Like, people talk about like take the stairs instead of the elevator. Yeah, man, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Like over time, those small little changes do make a difference. They make a big difference in your health,
It's kind of a little side point on the taking the stairs. David Lieberman in that book Exercised, he said when they studied a fitness convention, there was one fitness convention they studied, and they sat and watched how many people took the elevator versus the stairs. And it was like something like under like 6 or 7% of the attendees at a fitness convention took the stairs versus the elevator. Right? Oh, wow. It was such a low percentage. He's like,
it's their vacation.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, work out.
It's their vacation.
I work out all the time.
That could be true too. That's their vacation. Right.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that is we don't really think about structuring our environment to meet our goals,
Yes.
Like the more, like you take a grocery store, for example, all the items that are at the end of the aisles are much more likely to be bought. and all the items that are at eye level are much more likely to be bought. That's done intentionally to manipulate you into buying the thing that the store wants you to buy. Like maybe they have too much inventory on it, or maybe they make more money off of these items than the other ones. So like a lot of like the cereal aisle is a good one, where the more expensive stuff is usually right at your eye level, and the cheaper stuff is either way at the bottom or way at the top. That's one way in which these stores are manipulating us to want to buy certain things. But like that same thing can be used for positive things as well. Like we can change our environment to make it easier for us to make healthy decisions, like to drink more water or to stand more or take the stairs. But usually those are second thoughts, like, or afterthoughts. Usually stairs are much harder to take than an elevator.
Oh, man.
You know, elevators usually front and center, and stair, you're like, where? I used to work in a building in New York where if you took the stairs, you get locked out and you got to climb all the way to the bottom, you know, to get out. Like for whatever reason, they set it up that way so you could take the stairs as a fire escape, but you couldn't take the stairs just to go up and down. So I always had to go down one level to pick up some things, and it made me so angry that I had to take the elevator to go down one level. You know, like what the hell?
Well, yeah, because it's like when I want to quit gambling, I cut everything. I cut out the environments. I removed myself from that possibility. My bookie's phone number, I deleted it. I just never called again. You know, you avoid the casinos, and I go back. I can easily walk into a casino and never do anything because I've been so removed from that environment for so long that it doesn't affect me anymore. Right.
Totally.
But,
totally.
But I understand the struggle mentally that a lot of other people have. And I don't know, I guess some people would say, well, mentally you're a lot stronger or whatever. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I have empathy towards those people that do struggle and fight that. But for me, it's like when I do talk to them, I'm like, you've got to remove yourself physically sometimes, a lot of times I should say, from ever being around that environment.
100% with you. You know, our brain is a association machine. It's really good at making predictions. And this started out as like a safety technique. Like if there was a lion hiding behind this bush and like someone in your tribe got taken down by this lion, well, now you avoid that bush at all costs. You know, our brain is very good at forming these connections, and it does that with threats like predators and lions and all that kind of stuff. But it also does this with like casinos. Like it knows when you're in that environment that it gets you all wired for all the kind of stuff that you're going to be doing there. And casinos are actually like, they're brilliantly designed.
Oh, yes.
People know there's no windows. There's no clocks. It always kind of feels like 5 p.m. You know, it's like, it's completely designed, and it's easy to get lost in a casino. To like get from one end to another, you got to walk through all the machines, all the tables, you know, they know exactly what they're doing. I want folks to take that same level of design and apply it to their lives for good purposes. I'm all about locking in the healthy choices when it's easy to do that. Like one thing I've learned about myself, I need to have a meal before I go grocery shopping. If I don't, like, if I'm grocery shopping while hungry.
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's, yeah. Oh, I brought back all the Oreos. I'm bringing this back, you know, and then I'm breaking all my rules of like, I don't want this stuff in the home, you know? So you kind of have to learn like, all right, what's going to set you up for healthy decisions when it's easy to make that decision. It's very hard for me to avoid buying the Oreos when I'm at the grocery store and I'm hungry. Super easy for me to do it if I've had a good meal and like I see those Oreos and I'm like, oh no, I'm so full, man. Like I don't want to, like, I'm not even going there, you know? So lock in the choices when it's easy to lock it in. That's about being smarter, not stronger. Like, I think the real strength comes in sitting down and planning this out before you're even in that trouble. Like deleting the number of your bookie, you know, that takes courage. And that's the real strength we're talking about. It's about making this hard decision. You know it's hard. You know you don't want to delete that number. And at the same time, you know that the way to get to your goals means you got to delete this guy's number. Mm-hmm. And so you delete it, and now you're set up for success. Lock in those healthy choices when it's easier to. It's not about deleting your bookie's number when you're so craving it, right before the Super Bowl, and you want to place a bet in. That's not the time. It's too late then. It's too hard. You got to do it earlier.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I heard a long time ago, and I really have loved it, is if something or someone is bringing down your quality of life, then they have to be that something or someone should be removed. And that's just in your best interest. So I heard that a long time ago, and I think that was one of the motivating factors, or the one thing that I looked at perspective-wise that helped me, that's always kind of helped me in that regard of, okay, this isn't good. All right, time to push it out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a hard thing to do. Yeah. It can bring up guilt. It can make you feel like you're being a bad friend or bad family member. But, the thing I've learned about my field is if I don't put myself first, I can't help anyone else, And sometimes putting myself first means I got to make some of those tough decisions and say no to folks because I'm just too burnt out. I'm too tired. Or, you know what, you're kind of more of a toxic influence in my life, What
about we train husbands and spouses or whatever. But what happens in, let's say, that setting where one person wants to make that change and the other person doesn't? That's right. That's crazy.
That's hard.
Right.
Well, how do you, I'm actually really curious. Cause you just described a big challenge in my work is we often think about it as being like an individual thing, but like a lot of times making changes, it's a relational thing. Cause okay, look, I might suck at portion control, but my wife does not. Nguyen is amazing. She'll buy chips and she'll have like 3 and then she's done. She doesn't even put them in a bowl. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Right? I know.
You talk about mental strength.
It's what she's got. Like she has never struggled with the way I've struggled with food. She can do that. But okay, Ali's strategy is don't have that stuff at home. Nguyen's strategy is it's fine to have it at home. It's not like I'm ever going to do too much. So how do you deal with the couple stuff? So I'm actually, before I give you my answer, I'm actually curious about how both of you approach that when you're training a couple. How do you do that? Because they're both in such different places.
Well, so I have a longtime client. I've been training for about 10 years now. And when she first came to me, she was probably 60 pounds overweight, and she trained by herself, and she's lost all that. And she's really strong now, really capable. And what happened there was it motivated the rest of her family to come in. So her husband trains with her now, and her kids come in and train. So I've seen that, that side of it where it just motivated the whole family to be healthy together. So that's one experience I've had there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I would tend to say the same thing because, for me, I'm just more movement-focused coach. But I think when we talk about overall health, before we even get into the nutrition aspect, because that really is, in my opinion, the hardest part, psychologically especially.
Yeah,
we got to get people moving first and feeling better about just the fact that they can move, be comfortable moving. So I think, and it's breaking the stereotypes of what most people think working out or training is. Yeah. And so I know the feedback I typically get from people that I've worked with is, wow, you do things that I normally don't see at a gym, and it's more enjoyable, and it's like they buy in. So it's removing the intimidation, getting them to understand that training, what typically we're thinking is maybe not what it really should be type of thing.
Right.
And then just getting them more confidence. And then I think that rubs off on the people around them because they see that change in confidence. It's tangible, right? And so I think that's and when we developed Stick Mobility, I saw a huge increase in spouses that would never come to the gym. All of a sudden they're like, oh, well, I want to do that. So it was kind of interesting to see the impact just because it was novel, it was different.
Yeah. I think there's that thing about being more capable, right? Getting more confidence, and it just rubs off. Your mood changes.
Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear, that how much it's kind of like positively spread through families. So the challenge on my end is, like, let's say I'm trying to help someone overcome social anxiety, and I might be asking them to do certain things. Like, let's say they're like a 25-year-old young adult, but maybe I'm asking them to do something, but then their mom and dad kind of swoop in and do that thing for them because that's the way they've been doing it like their whole lives. And they don't necessarily have the confidence that the kid can do it on their own. So what I often end up doing is bringing all the people in the room, like whoever's involved, mom or dad or, a sibling, whoever might be involved, and get people all on the same page about what the goal is, and like really charging it with like values. So the goal isn't just like, we want Sam to be less socially anxious. The goal might be like, we want Sam to be feeling good about himself and becoming independent. And that's going to be good for the whole family. Mm-hmm. But like, Sam's working on his own stuff, and mom, dad, you got to be working on your own stuff too. And here's how you can help. So we get everyone on the same page of like, what's the goal here? And then like, what does each person need to do? So we're all kind of headed in the same direction, because it's kind of like, you can't get one person working on their nutrition when the whole family is eating like they can't be eating separate meals.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of same thing is like, one person can't be working on overcoming the anxiety when the rest of the family is like maintaining it. You got to get people on the same page. But usually, I mean, like Neil, what you said, seeing a little bit change can lead to other people wanting to come on board. In my experience, like as people start to become a bit more independent and they start to get better at managing whatever emotions they struggle with, people notice that. Mm-hmm. People in the family notice that. Partners notice that, and they like that feeling. They like seeing the other person feeling better about themselves.
As far as family or trying to influence other people, should it be just a more subtle push? Because I mean, if you're too obtuse about it and just in your face, you'd probably alienate them more than kind of bringing them in gradually or just letting them observe from a distance type thing, right?
I mean, that stuff is blown up in my face all the time. Like I've gone too far, too intense, too fast. I've also like held back too much. And what I've learned is, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche to say this, but I've learned it's a bit of a dance. You're not going to know what's the right amount until you try, but you got to get up in there and you got to try dancing, you got to get, I mean, no pun intended, but you got to get moving. You can't just like be sitting on the sidelines. Every family is different, and I'm always surprised at, and every couple is different. I'm always, people always surprise me. Sometimes people are describing like their girlfriend, and I have this image in my mind of what the person's like, and they show up in the room and they're like so completely different. Like I'm always wrong about my expectations. But the thing I've learned is like, yeah, it's a dance, and you can always repair these things. Like you can go with what your gut is telling you. And if you did too much or if you did too little, it's okay. You can repair that relationship. Like you can retool it.
Well, I think one of the things that from the mental health aspect, especially over the last year, is unfortunately seeing the huge increase. I mean, I'm assuming your business has really picked up dealing with people with anxiety, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, what's happening around the country right now is a lot of therapists are beyond full. And most therapists were like full before the pandemic started. Mm-hmm. And now you have more people who are struggling. And the other thing that's happening too is a lot of mental health folks are struggling with the exact same things as their patients are, and they're feeling burnt out, overwhelmed. I mean, I've got a lot of friends who they're back to back with patients all day in their home on their screens, and maybe they've got kids who aren't in school and they're running around too. Like it's a bit of a mess out there. So on the one hand, I love that we've got more telehealth kind of stuff. Like you can see your therapist, you can see your physician, you can see a nurse practitioner, you can see your social worker, you can see people all through video. Like that is amazing now. And at the same time, like people are overwhelmed on all sides of this. So it's a tough time for mental health. And while there's some glimmers of hope here with the pandemic and the vaccines, I think we're going to be dealing with some of the mental health consequences of this for like a long time. Like I was joking with you guys before we started recording about how my wife and I were like both working from home, right? She's in the next room. But like our marriage has taken ups and downs because we're always around each other, but we're also always working, and we don't get breaks from each other, and we also don't get breaks from parenting. Like it's every relationship is fully taxed right now. Like we're all holding a lot, and I think it's going to take some time for us to recover from all of this once the pandemic is like actually over.
So are you guys scheduling time to get outside now and, go on these hikes and do that at least once or twice a week or as much as you can?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The weekends, and like, thank goodness we live in California right now where we can easily do this on the weekends, but that's what we look forward to the most. Like we all are so much better when we have that outdoor activity on the weekends. I love it. I look forward to it. We had it this weekend. This weekend were 2 days where, like yesterday was my 11-year-old nephew just had a birthday, and we had like a big Nerf gun battle in a park. And so like that was a ton of fun because we're all moving around and stuff. But the day before we went out to Santa Cruz and we're outside. It was a beautiful day. It wasn't too cold, wasn't too warm. It was just perfect. That helps a lot. Like that's become kind of our physical health routine and mental health routine. Like the weekends, getting out as much as we can. And you guys, this is why like the most difficult month for me as a Northern Californian was the month where we were really experiencing the wildfires. Like
that was really hard for me too.
Mm-hmm.
It robbed us of like the one thing we had, which was like being able to be outside. Mm-hmm. It's not like we could go to indoor places because you got a pandemic. We couldn't go to outdoor places because you got wildfires. It was so bad for my mental health and my physical health. Like both just like really plummeted during that period, man. That was really hard.
Well, I think that's a question that some critics have had is we're telling people stay at home, do this because of a virus physically impacting you. But then did we take enough of a big picture look as far as how this is going to long-term affect just millions and millions and millions of people? I know we saw what they said. The World Health Organization says that mentally there's about 1 million suicides a year. And that was before this whole pandemic. So with unemployment and deaths and all these other things, where do we kind of walk that line, so to speak?
Yeah, these are the big questions. Like, especially with the United States, so much of our pandemic response was so disorganized, like state by state, sometimes county by county. From a mental health criticism and from a behavioral psychology criticism, we should have been telling people what they can do socially. Like going outside and being a little socially distant from each other and having like an outside picnic is great. Like we should have been doing that. Like the risks of coronavirus is substantially reduced when you're outside. But then when you're outside and you're distant, especially like if it's windy at all, like it's a pretty safe thing to do. Yeah. So we should have been telling people how to stay connected in a safe way. And we didn't really do that. So that's one thing. And to your other point, Dennis, like people need to feel like their basic safety is taken care of. So like unemployment support, healthcare support, like those things need to be there. So like you aren't like one infection away from poverty, so that you aren't like, so you lost your job in the pandemic, there's nothing else you can do. So you're not going to get evicted, right? Like some of these basic things need to really be taken care of to ward off the worst mental health impacts of all of this. Like if people's basic needs are supported and they can find ways to connect with other people, that does a lot to reduce some of the worst impacts of all of this.
Yeah, because I mean, I've talked to Neil several times about, I'll put on Sirius XM and the CDC is running mental health commercials. And it's kind of ironic because I'm like, the pandemic is created this issue. So now you're getting hit from both sides. So it's kind of, you kind of scratch your head sometimes like, is there a better way of handling this, or should there have been a better way of handling it, so to speak?
Yeah. I mean, I hope we're able to, really learn our lessons from all of this, so we're better prepared for whatever comes next. I mean, we've all lost a way of life. Some of us have lost people, but we've all lost a way of life. We all have a lot to grieve here, and we've learned a lot from this process. If we can just really learn all the right lessons from this, I think we're going to be better prepared for whatever the next crisis is that's going to hit us, or hopefully not, but like the next pandemic, right? Like the countries that learned the best from SARS back in a lot of the Asian countries that are most impacted by SARS were best positioned to deal with this. Like you look at how Taiwan has handled the pandemic, very different way. Like in Korea, like the technology they had for contact tracing and really being able to like early identify and limit exposure so it never reaches the massive scale it has in America. Like we had no chance in America. We were just not set up at all to deal with this in any way. So I hope we can learn some of those lessons, and we got a lot of rebuilding to do when this is all done.
Well, I know one of the things that I know we've been doing more of just to kind of boost people's levels up, especially when they're training, is just adding more spontaneity and kind of more fun in our training as far as adding games, just to get people feeling like kind of like a kid again, taking them back to their formative years, right?
That's something we all need a lot of right now. So we've lost a lot of the novelty of just regular life. Like you go to a coffee shop, you go to a Greek place and you run into your old friend
right.
from middle school and high school, right? Like I never predicted that I would run into Neil that day, and it happened, and it was kind of like the highlight of my day, right? A totally unpredicted surprise. And we don't really have much of that. So much of our life is scheduled, is these like Zoom meetings, or even if we go out to like Target or something to pick up some supplies, we're wearing masks. It's really hard. Like I have a hard time recognizing people in masks. It's like half their face is sort of gone there. This is part of the reason why I think we're all in this like temporal fog, where it feels like it's been a long time, but it also like I can't tell you what I did last summer. Like it all just like feels like one weird blur. So anything we can do to get a little bit more novelty in the day, a little bit more surprise, a little bit more fun, this is going to be really helpful for us right now. It's something we need a lot of. Like one of my favorite things that I've done in the pandemic as a way of coping is I bought a Nintendo Switch just to play with one of my nephews. And I love Mario Kart. I've always loved Mario Kart, but I suck at Smash Brothers. Always have. So like my mission in life right now is to get good enough to beat the crap out of my nephew. It's Smash Brothers. Like,
is this the nephew that just turned 11?
Yes.
Okay.
Say what? Say what?
Good luck, man.
I'm trying, man, and it's for the record, I took him down in Nerf real hard. I had to we started and I just let loose at him, and I figured out Might be good at Smash Brothers, but he's not so good with the nerf. But yeah, it's like it's a new thing. I haven't done it before. I got a lot to learn. It's something that takes my mind off of the wackiness of the world. So like finding novelty and surprise and feeling like a kid again, Dennis, we all need that. We need a lot of that right now.
Yeah, and there's, that approach you're talking about as far as, working on things you can do. I think that's something that Dennis and I focus on a lot is instead of, telling our clients, hey, you can't do that, you can't do that. Let's give them drills they can do successfully right away where they get this positive feedback and impact and then keep progressing them from there.
Oh, yeah. I'm all about the 2-minute rule of behavior change. So make whatever change you need small enough so you can do it in 2 minutes. So another way of thinking about it is like get people quick wins, something that they can like super easily feel good about and start moving in the right direction. And you can build on it from there. So like maybe if one of your goals is like you want to go for that run, what's a 2-minute version of it? Well, the 2-minute version of it might be like get your workout clothes ready and just like have them in the right spot so you see it, it reminds you, There's a great book. If anyone wants to, like everything I've talked about can be summed up in this great book called Atomic Habits. James Clear wrote this book and he's not a psychologist, he's not a mental health guy, but he's like a habit change nerd. And that book summarizes like everything about behavioral psychology really easily. It's a cool book. I super recommend that if anyone wants to learn more about this kind of stuff.
Awesome. I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Well, Doc, thanks for joining us, man. It was fantastic. And
man, it was speaking of like fun surprises in the day, this hour has been like a ton of fun. I so love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, we need to have you back on again.
Yeah, we're gonna have you back on. Because Neil and I talked about having you on as a regular. Just got to buy in here before anything else.
And
it's
I
all
think
connected.
The physical and mental thing, they go hand in hand together.
Absolutely. They aren't separate, different things. They're interconnected. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, because we hear all the time, you'll ask a client to do something and they say, well, I can't do that. And I always tell them, well, you're right, because you already told yourself you can't do it. So we got to change that, right? So like I never allow that phrase to be said.
Man, I'm gonna have to rip that off.
Because my thing is
steal that from you.
Because my thing is no, we're gonna work to see how good you can get at it. Period.
Yeah.
We're going to work to improve it, but don't ever say I can't do it, because then you simply can't, because mentally you're already shut off to it.
I love that.
So where can people find you? You said YouTube channel and
if you go to youtube.com/the Psych Show, that'll get you to my YouTube channel. I talk about all sorts of things, psychology, mental health. So check that out. And then on social media, I'm at Ali Mattu, ALIMATTU. That'll get you to all the stuff I talk about.
Well, and I know you've been interviewed on couple big shows, right, on Netflix and on HBO.
Yeah. I've got a few little side hustles there. So I did a short series with HBO called Dr. Commentaries, where it's kind of like it was me reacting to some of their big shows, showing the mental health themes there. That was a lot of fun. And then what else have I done? If people want to learn more about anxiety, actually go to Netflix and watch The Mind Explained, the anxiety episode. I'm in that one. That's like a 25-minute everything you need to know about treating anxiety. It's all right there. Really proud of the work we did on that one. So I would say those are actually two good things for if you're interested in learning more about my kind of stuff. Dr. Commentaries, HBO. It's all on YouTube. You can easily check that out. And then on Netflix, Mind Explained Anxiety. You got it. That'll get you everything you need to know.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks again, brother.
Cool.
And we'll be chatting soon. And to all the listeners out there, thanks for joining us. And until next episode, be good to each other.